How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome across America. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. There is global outrage, at least in the United States, but we're the only part of the globe that matters, over the east wing of the White House being torn down. They were going to tear down the facade. The White House this morning saying they've decided to tear the whole thing down, which if you look at the plans, they were going to do anyway to build a ballroom. And the left is in full-throated meltdown. Politico this morning in their playbook says every party in Washington is buzzing about the ballroom. That just means they're going to the lib parties because most people don't care. Most people have lives. Most people aren't paying attention, but progressives are all worked into a lather about it. I got to admit, personally, it's very funny to me to see the level of outrage from the left over this and how ignorant they actually are about things. You know, George W. Bush tore out the Situation Room in which John F. Kennedy handled the Cuban Missile Crisis and Ronald Reagan coordinated the fall of the Soviet Union. George W. Bush even built a baseball field at the White House for Little League. Barack Obama tore up some dining rooms and made them very modern and drab looking. Nancy Reagan poured more red paint over the White House than Stalin's painters did during World War II. FDR actually built the East Wing and an indoor pool for himself. I think Nixon built the outdoor pool. Ike built the putting green. The Roosevelt built the West Wing, and Roosevelt expanded it, and then Truman had the whole White House gutted and rebuilt. You understand that? Truman actually lived in the guest house of the White House for most of his term in office because it turned out to be structurally unsound by the late 1940s, and they gutted the whole thing and rebuilt it. Presidents can do what presidents want to do to the house because it is their house. And while I like the intimate nature of the White House, in fact, King Charles III, when he was Prince Charles, referred to it as the most intimate little palace on planet Earth. It's not a palace, though. It's a house. It's an actual working house. It's a house in which a family lives in it, the first family, and they're there for a limited amount of time. It is not supposed to be a palace. Trump wants it to be ornate. I mean, he has puked gold leaf all over that thing, just so you understand. Because you do need to understand that President Trump's architecture, style of design is essentially the love child of Liberace and Jules Hardouin-Mansart. And if you don't know who Jules Hardouin-Mansart is, he's the architect of Versailles. Have you ever seen Liberace? I showed my son clips of Liberace last night, and he was like, "Dad, is he gay?" I was like, "Yes, sir, he was." I saw a gay rights activist who's a conservative this morning say, you got to understand, Trump is the first gay man we've ever had as president of the United States. He wants everything to be covered in gold leaf. He likes drag queens, and he wants you to be dressed to the nines at all times. Yeah. I mean, that explains Mar-a-Lago. Have y'all been to Mar-a-Lago? It's not just the gold leaf at Mar-a-Lago and the gaudiness of it all. At Mar-a-Lago, every woman comes in and her face is pulled back so much she almost looks Asian. And she can barely see, and her lips have been filled with so much filler, they look like they're about to explode. The only thing bigger than the lips are her chest. And it's just, I don't understand why there literally is a Mar-a-Lago look. And it's like women who have like gone down the road at 3,000 miles an hour and had their skin pulled back as far as it can, their lips filled with injector and their boobs done up as large as possible. It is y'all ladies, you don't have to do the plastic surgery. And I'm sorry, ladies, you think we don't notice that it's fake? We notice. We notice. When we got to wipe the crumb out of the edge of your lip by reaching behind your ear, we kind of notice you've had your face pulled back. And it doesn't look natural. And that is the look at Marla. It doesn't look natural, and it's gaudy, and it's a bit tacky. And that's Donald Trump's style. And you know what? He gets to do it because he's president of the United States, whether you like it or not. It's his house right now. The plurality of Americans voted for him. He won the popular vote. It's his house. He gets to do it. So, I mean, suck it up, Buttercup. Good Lord. It's not the end of the world. And by the way, while I disagree with those who say the White House needs a ballroom, yeah. Charlie just texted me. You can look old or you can look weird. You do not get to look younger. It's true. Y'all need to learn that lesson, ladies. It's like, let's be honest here. My wife fell down the stairs a couple of weeks ago on her way out to church because she decided she wanted to look cute for church, and she wore some shoes with thicker soles than she should have, and it got tangled on the carpet. And she's always miserable because the shoes that she wears make her feet hurt, and she's got to take the time to put on makeup. I don't know a man who cares how much makeup you put on and how much it's for the other women. It is for the other one. Let's just be honest, ladies. You're doing it not for your guy. You're doing it for other women, and you don't need to. And you don't need to go through that level of plastic surgery. And the number of people I know who have had plastic surgery who are convinced that the rest of us don't know they had plastic surgery, and we're just too nice and polite to point out to them that, yes, we know you have. And Botox, too. Good Lord. And that's kind of the thing that Trump likes in that style, with a lot of gold leaf and a lot of marble and a lot of veneer and a lot of polish. And I think this thing is going to be an overbuilt, gaudy monstrosity. But a lot of people, including Democrats, have long said the White House needed a ballroom. They just don't want Trump to be the one to build the ballroom, and they never got around to doing it. You know what what we've done in the past is we use the the state dining room or the east room of the White House. Depending on the size, they can hold up to 200, 250 people. If you want to get over 250 people, though, they've had to set up a tent on the White House grounds. Literally, they've set up tents on the White House grounds. And if the weather was bad, it could be miserable outside. If you wanted more than that many people, Trump likes to have big parties. He likes big parties. He wants 1,000 people at the White House, not 250 people at the White House. He wants the ballroom. Yes, will the ballroom be bigger than the actual White House? Yes, it will. It'll be hidden behind trees. I think they should sink it into the ground some so it doesn't overwhelm the place. But here's what's so funny about it. Not that Trump's doing it. The meltdown is kind of funny. But you know and I know that progressives are going to make it a litmus test in 2028. Every Democratic candidate is going to have to support health care for illegal aliens and tearing down the ballroom. Pete Buttigieg is probably going to try a compromise position of, well, let's do a gay marriage in it. But the Democrats are going to want them to tear it down, and they're not going to. They're not going to tear it down because the truth of the matter is most Democrats and Republicans have for a very long time thought the White House needed more space to host more events. Donald Trump wants to leave his permanent mark on the White House. FDR expanded the West Wing and added on to the East Wing. The East Wing had been built by Teddy Roosevelt, who built the West Wing. George W. Bush renovated the Situation Room and built bunkers under the White House. Richard Nixon added the bowling alley. Dwight Eisenhower added the putting green. I think the Nixons added the outdoor swimming pool as well. Somebody added the tennis court. All of these things are there. They weren't there. It's a house that has evolved over time, and the people who live there get to add things. Is this one of the biggest things to be added to the White House? Yes, it is larger than the White House. They say the trees will block it from view. It will not be ostentatious. Let's be honest. It's going to be ostentatious because it's Donald Trump who's building it. But it's, you know what they're saying today, though? They're saying it looks just like the inside of the St. Petersburg Palace. Clearly, the Russians are behind it. Well, I'm not making that up. A prominent Democratic account is saying Trump's doing it to make it look like something from a Russian czar's palace. The Russian czar's palace actually has a different ceiling, and Trump's ballroom looks like pretty much every other ballroom out there. Y'all, you can choose to get mad at everything, but I'm not going to. I think it's going to be gaudy and ostentatious, and I don't really care. Progressives care greatly, though. They don't want Donald Trump to do anything to the White House. I saw someone yesterday claim he was literally tearing down the White House, and it felt like an assault on the body politic. That's what she said. Of course, it was a she. It felt like an assault on the body politic. He was tearing down the White House. No, he's not. No, he's not. I don't like the design, particularly the second floor level on the East Wing gallery. I don't. But he gets to do it. If Barack Obama did it, you people would be totally fine. And you could say, well, if Barack Obama did it, you people would be outraged. And you know what? I guarantee you a lot of Republicans would be absolutely outraged if Barack Obama did it. I would tell you then what I'm telling you now. Yeah, I think it's gaudy and I don't like it, but he gets to do it. He's the president, and the next president can tear it down if he wants. But I think that's what really is outraging the leftist is they know Donald Trump's going to win this one. I actually think that's where all the outrage comes from over this ballroom is they know Trump has won. By building this ballroom at the White House, Donald Trump has won. And they know deep down the next Democratic president, he may turn it into a library. He may turn it into a church of Satan. He may turn it into a community gathering place for transgender weddings just to spite Donald Trump. He may do something with it to make it profane in the eyes of Trump supporters, but not going to tear it down. By the way, I do say he intentionally because we know how it's going to go. He's not going to tear it down. He's going to use it. He's going to fundraise in it. He's going to have people there. It will be a lasting legacy to Donald Trump on the grounds of the White House. And every time a Democrat goes into it and smiles, that Democrat's probably going to be attacked by progressives for going into the ballroom, but they're going to go into the ballroom, and they're going to use the ballroom. They're going to fill the ballroom. They're going to modify the ballroom, but they're going to keep the ballroom. And that's what's galling and grating to progressives. I have to tell you as well, there's this trend on the left and the right that you got to get upset about everything. It's like the Charlie Kirk stuff. God rest his soul. At this point, I'm kind of rolling my eyes with the Republicans still trying to get people fired for not liking Charlie Kirk or not genuflecting enough or what have you. Just move on. This cancel culture stuff on the right is as tiring as it is on the left. I'm kind of tired of it. I'm kind of tired of the idea that we have to get outraged about everything all the time. There's got to be outrage. No, there doesn't have to be. On the left right now, it's how they're driving themselves to the midterms, is they're trying to keep themselves inflamed and outraged about absolutely everything that Donald Trump does. And as I have said repeatedly, if every hill is a hill to die on, you're going to die a lot. This isn't a hill to die on. Democrats themselves have said the White House needed more space. They just don't like it that Donald Trump is doing it, which gets the whole authoritarian thing, too. Democrats say he's an authoritarian, he's a tyrant, he's a dictator. You know, they would be perfectly fine if he were a totalitarian dictator, if he were progressive. If he were a progressive giving progressives what they wanted, they would love him. We know that's true. They're literally running a man in Maine who has a Nazi tattoo on his chest of the Nazi SS brigade that committed and participated in the Holocaust, and they're like, he's our guy, we like him. You know that Graham, what's his name, up in Maine, if you ever watch Schindler's List and look at Ray Fiennes' character who played one of the monsters of the Holocaust, his lapel pin is the same symbol the guy has tattooed on his chest. And the Democrats are like, it's fine with us that he's got a Nazi tattoo. He didn't participate in that group chat. That's why we can't take you seriously over the outrage now, because we know you guys would be totally fine if a Democrat did what Trump is doing. You just don't like it that Trump is doing it, and you really hate the idea that you know deep down the next Democratic president may promise you he'll tear down the ballroom and then get there and say, I kind of like it. And that, my friends, is your ultimate problem, because you, on the left, have decided really to embrace hypocrisy, and you think only the right does it. Y'all, I have been waiting to tell you about Cove Pure. I'm so excited. So, I moved my radio show and podcast out of my house to a studio, and I'm in a big corporate building, and you don't really trust the water out of the pipes. Cove Pure is the fix. They've got clear wave technology. It removes 99.9% of contaminants, lead, PFAs, pharmaceuticals, you name it. I've got one in my office, and I finally have stopped buying bottles of water thanks to Cove Pure. There's no need to call a plumber or drill any holes. I was able to do it. You just plug it in on your countertop. You set the temperature you want on the touchscreen. It tastes like water. That is, it doesn't have a taste. It's fantastic. Take back control of your family's health and drink water the way it's meant to be. Go to covepure.com/Eric right now. Get $200 off while supplies last. That's covepure.com/ERICK. Covepure.com/Eric. Get $200 off. Covepure.com/Eric. Hello there. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson across the United States. A small prayer request, please. My wife is having to have a CT scan this afternoon to see if she got a clot in her lungs while she's in the hospital. They don't think that she has, but she's got that factor V Leiden thing, or it's a clotting disorder, and they never had those compression things on her legs while she was in the hospital. So she's just having some trouble catching her breath after being in the hospital, and they think it's just being worn out, but they want to be extra cautious. So prayers appreciated. She's headed in this afternoon to get that. I'll let you know when I know. The phone number here, 877-973-7425. If you want to be on the program, don't forget to text Eric, ERICK, to 33777 to get the show notes. If you got my morning piece, the cowboys of America are upset with Donald Trump. Actually, it's the ranchers and the cattlemen. They're not happy. And it is hilarious to me to have pointed that out this morning and gotten a bunch of people lecturing me that the Cattlemen's Association is actually a bunch of forwarders, when I actually know ranchers in Oklahoma and Texas who are furious with the president deciding to bring subsidized Argentinian beef into the country, and they don't like the tariffs either. In fact, the Cattlemen's Association is asking the president to get rid of the tariffs and just let them compete and help please with the screwworm problem. We'll get to that. But first, I got to tell you about Swiss America. They're warning you about the secret war on cash. The government's trying to steer everybody to plastic so they can track your purchases. They don't like that you use cash because cash is anonymous. Crypto is anonymous, and they're trying to come after your crypto and your cash. Swiss America is the trusted leader in precious metals in this country. They've been doing this for over 40 years. They're rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau, and they would like to help you protect your hard-earned assets and help your retirement and finances. It takes less than 15 minutes to read their report. All you have to do is call or text my name, Eric, ERICK, to 800-289-2646. If you text my name, Eric, to 800-289-2646, they're going to send you back a link. The all-out war on cash does include digital forms of currency. You can also go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric, SwissAmerica.com/ERICK. Get the report completely free from Swiss America. Text my name or just call them and say Eric Erickson sent me, but just text Eric, ERICK, to 800-289-2646. That's 800-289-2646. Or go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric, SwissAmerica.com/ERICK. Message and data rates may apply. Hello, America. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, if you will remember, you can text the word Eric to 33777, and you can get the show notes. You can get the live stream. You can get the podcast. You can follow me all over social media. I do have one note. I've continued getting some emails from folks giving vehicle recommendations for my son. We pulled the trigger on the Hyundai Santa Fe that he wanted. I got so many people who emailed and said, I've got one. It's really good. So the 2026 model, we got it new because I'm fortunate to be able to do that. My son is actually a little bit concerned that kids, as he doesn't know we got him this car, he's going to come home from school tomorrow, he's going to be there. And I got to really thank the folks at Jim Ellis here in Atlanta. I did everything over the line. I've never done this before. I bought a car at my desk at home. I had the finance guy, Kirby, on the phone with me, and he sent me everything. He sent me a link, and I signed everything, reviewed everything online, and they're sending me. It's the most painless vehicle purchasing process I have ever gone through. And the car will be delivered in the morning while he's at school. We thought about driving to school, but he has made some comments that some of the kids passive-aggressively make comments about his daddy's money. And he actually brought it up to me last week when the subject of the Mustang came up. And I said, well, what you do is you tell them we actually bought you a Mercedes, but we thought that would be pretentious for the school, so we got you the Mustang just to drive to school. He was gonna do that, but we'll see. In any event, thank you all for the recommendations. We have made the decision, pulled the trigger, and thanks, Jim Ellis, it was the most pain-free vehicle buying process. I'm stunned I was able to do it at my desk in my house, and they're going to deliver the car. That was great. Okay, I want to go to Ken's phone call. Ken, welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
I'm good. It's Tim, Eric.
Welcome.
That's okay. Hey, prayers to your wife. I'm glad you guys are very proactive. You have to listen to your body. That's great.
Thank you.
Hey, I've been in Mar-a-Lago several times. I worked for Trump for 10 years. I know it's gaudy. It's very gaudy. But you got to remember, the next president that comes in can tone it down a little bit.
Yeah.
That construction. And then not only that, but I saw a picture today of Obama had this big tent constructed for all these dignitaries. Imagine a tent. The most powerful country in the world, and we have these dignitaries in a tent. That's embarrassing.
Yeah, okay, so you make that point, and your point needs to be, just let me amplify it here, that Democrats themselves, when Obama was president, said the White House needed a ballroom. And in fact, one of the solutions that they floated was the Treasury building is right next to the east wing of the White House. And one of the things the Democrats floated when Obama was president was taking over a portion of the Treasury building and turning that into White House ballroom and moving the Treasury elsewhere. For the very reason you're talking about, they wanted a ballroom for the president. And he had a giant tent on the White House grounds, and it was, if I recall right, it was muddy. They had to put down some fake flooring so people didn't get stuck in the mud. They had to elevate it because of the rain. And yeah, so that's Democrats back during Obama's tenure. We're talking about needing a ballroom. So there you go. And yeah, Mar-a-Lago is gaudy. It's also, by the way, the building is gorgeous and the grounds are gorgeous. I just, this throwing up gold leaf everywhere sort of stuff, I don't mind gold, but I find it very tacky. And, you know, it's true, though, it is his style. If you stay in a Trump hotel, and one of my favorite hotels on planet Earth is actually the Trump Chicago. And I've told Eric Trump this. If you ever go to Chicago and you get the opportunity, it's kind of pricey. I've been able to get there a couple times and was speaking on different occasions and stayed at the Trump Hotel Chicago. It is hands down the nicest hotel. I love that place. But the Trump Hotel Central Park and the one, I never stayed at the one that's now the Waldorf Astoria on Pennsylvania Avenue in D.C. But gold leaf everywhere. It's just, it's very, very gaudy. And if that's your thing, that's your thing. I know some people who like it. But the weird, wild thing is all the people I know who really like that look, the vases and the vases and the gold leaf and the marble and all of that is they also, you can tell, they've been getting work done on themselves too. Gold leaf and face pulls kind of go hand in hand. I think Trump's the only one who doesn't do it in his circle of friends. I don't think he does plastic surgery. I don't think he does. In any event, we got to move on to other stuff because there actually is way more important things to do. We are changing fundamental policy in Ukraine. And that is a really good thing. Fundamental change in policy. The president, have you ever, I mean, you see on speeches, those of you who've met Trump one-on-one, you will know he is one of the funniest people. When you sit down one-on-one with Donald Trump and you have a private conversation with Donald Trump, you spend a lot of time laughing. You know, I've got my criticisms of Trump. I got my criticisms of his character. But every time I've spent time with him, I enjoy the time with him because he's a very funny person. And when he is off the camera and he's not performing to the crowd, he doesn't take himself or very seriously. He's very, very funny and lighthearted. And you are the center of his attention, and he can make all sorts of jokes. And he's made jokes at my expense before that I have found very funny, and jokes at his expense, and he laughs. He has a very, very funny sense of humor and a great comedic timing. And I say all this to say his comedic timing was on display yesterday on social media because the United States under Donald Trump has fundamentally changed policy with Ukraine. We are allowing Ukraine now to use the long-range missiles we have given them and to allow them to target the Russians. Now, Mark Reddy, who is the Secretary General of NATO, was at the White House today, and he was defending continuing the fight against the Russians in Ukraine. And this is some of what he had to say.
Collapse in Ukrainian support for the war. A Gallup poll had it just 23%. That's less than a quarter. Zelensky came out today praising President Trump's proposal for freezing the front lines of battle as part of a ceasefire. He said that's a good compromise. So people view your coming here as, you're lobbying the U.S. government to continue its involvement in the war. You're obviously lobbying for more NATO weapons to be sent to Ukraine, but Ukrainians themselves don't want to fight the war. So how do you justify that morally?
Well, I'm lobbying only for one thing, and that is to make sure that we end this war. And I don't have to lobby the president because we totally agree on this, and this is what he has been doing from day one. Everything he could do to break the deadlock with Putin, get the dialogue going, dialoguing also with Zelensky, and getting this war done. It's crucial. And the fact that the US is now supplying weapons into Ukraine, paid for by allies, is extremely important. And that's now happening since 2-3 months. About 2 billion moving into Ukraine.
The war hasn't wind down. Why do you think that'll wind it down now?
What do you mean?
You think more weapons will wind down the war?
No, I mean, there's more to be done. So what you need, what the president said this weekend, stop where you are. So basically do a ceasefire and then have all your discussions about territory and whatever. But first stop the war. This is what you said on Friday and on Sunday.
It's a war. I mean, your question's really a fair one. It's a war that should have never started. And you know how I feel about it. But it's a war that should have never started. And we're not selling any weapons to Ukraine. We're selling them to NATO, which is different from before. With Biden, he just gave $350 billion worth of weapons and cash right into Ukraine. And
so essentially yesterday on social media, Donald Trump says, we don't know where Ukraine got the weapons from, and we don't know if they're using them for long range. We had nothing to do with this. So here's what's happening. We sell Tomahawk missiles to our NATO allies. What we've done is we've told our NATO allies, now anything we sell to you, you can sell to the Ukrainians, you can give to the Ukrainians. Well, our allies have given Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine. And the president says you give them to Ukraine, they get to use them. That's the rule. Whatever we sell to you, you can give or sell to Ukraine, and they can use. So Tomahawk missiles are now in Ukraine's hands, and the president's like, I don't know where they got these things. I didn't approve the sale to them. I don't know how they're going to use them. Nobody's told me anything. It's high comedy, actually, because everybody knows. Like you heard the defensiveness here with the president says, hey, we're not giving weapons to Ukraine. We're selling weapons to NATO. And whatever NATO does with them, NATO does with them. But, Biden, he just gave cash and weapons to Ukraine, and we're not doing that. We're selling them, and we're not selling them to Ukraine. We're selling them to NATO. It's priceless. But not only that, we're also applying aggressive sanctions to Russian oil companies that is really notable because Joe Biden chose not to be this aggressive.
So there's also talk today, Scott, not the first time, sanctions on those who purchase Russian oil or perhaps other sanctions on Russia itself. Can you shed any light on that?
Larry, as you know, and the world can see, President Trump is the president of peace. He's done peace deals, trade deals, tax deals, and part of the peace deal, the real remaining final conflict in the world, this would be the 9th one that he has found a solution to, would be between Russia and Ukraine. President Putin has not come to the table in an honest and forthright manner, as we'd hoped. There were talks in Alaska. President Trump walked away when he realized that things were not moving forward. There have been behind-the-scenes talk, but I believe that the president is disappointed at the where we are in these talks. So either this evening or first thing tomorrow morning, we are going to be announcing a substantial increase in Russia's sanctions. I'm not going to give you the exact sanctions, but I can tell you that this will be one of the largest sanctions that we have done against the Russian Federation.
So these
now, notable, again, Biden didn't do this. Trump is coming for Russia's oil, and by making let's go to the tariffs. What's one of the things that has happened to tariffs to avoid you having to pay so much higher prices? The companies making the goods abroad have lowered the prices so that when it gets to this country and the importer has to pay the tariff, it's still the same price as it was the week before the tariff. The company abroad is eating the profit. That's not what the Russians are going to have to do. They're going to have to cut the price of a barrel of oil in order to sell it to other countries, given the penalties we are applying. If the Russians want to keep selling, it's already so high. This penalty goes so high on other nations. They're essentially going to get taxed by the Americans. There will be repercussions for countries buying Russian oil. The Russians are going to have to make their oil so cheap, they're not going to be able to fund their war. You do understand that Joe Biden didn't do this, right? You do understand the man that all the left says was really committed to the Ukrainians, unlike Donald Trump, that Joe Biden didn't do what Donald Trump is doing. Joe Biden did not give long-range weapons to NATO or sell them in any capacity, and Joe Biden did not put tariffs and penalties on the Russian oil manufacturers. He did not sanction them in the way that Donald Trump is doing. Donald Trump is doing it aggressively. For all the people who are convinced that Donald Trump is worse for Ukraine than Joe Biden, Donald Trump is being way more aggressive with the Russians than Joe Biden. He's applying more penalties than Joe Biden did. And none of you people on the left want to give Donald Trump credit for that. Isn't it remarkable? You've made all sorts of demands. Here he is fulfilling your demands, and you still don't want to get even credit. You're convinced he's still in Russia's pocket. He wants peace. He tried to get peace, and Vladimir Putin has scuttled a peace deal. Vladimir Putin has scrapped plans to go to Budapest to have talks with Donald Trump. And so Donald Trump's like, all right, NATO, do what you want to do. It's not us. It's the Europeans. We have nothing to do with it. I know nothing and no one consulted with me. It's NATO weaponry. It's not our weaponry. It's high comedy. And by the way, he's right. We sold this stuff to NATO. We didn't give it to Ukraine. What NATO does with it, NATO does with it. We got no say in it. It's all NATO. And yet, it's Ukraine's. And they're going to use it. And we now are pretty sure the Russians don't have capacity to expand the theater of operations, even as Vladimir Putin may want. So let's let Ukraine actually bring this thing to a resolution. Putin has dragged his feet on this, hoping to capture more of Ukraine. It's not happening. And now maybe with Ukraine having the firepower to combat the Russians, well, they'll use the strength of Ukraine as their bargaining tool to end this. Greetings. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. I am delighted to have you with me. We've got so much more on tap today to talk about, including when we come back, WIC is on the verge of running out of money because of the government shutdown and the sports betting scandal. The mafia, the Italian mob, has been involved in sports betting in this country. And more on the Cowboys. Not the team, the actual Cowboys, the ranchers and the cattlemen and the president. But first, I got to tell you, my son has not responded to some of the memes I have sent him on Instagram. And yesterday, on the way home from school, I asked him about one of them. He says, I deleted Instagram. I said, why? He says, because I fear I'm wasting my time on Instagram. There are more important things to do than scrolling Instagram all. And so that's a very grown-up opinion. And then I said, yeah, like I read a story that when kids in schools have their phones taken away, their increase in reading books goes up. And his response was, what's a book? It's like, this only goes so far. But I mean, good for him as a 16-year-old to realize that doom scrolling Instagram all day, probably not a healthy thing. It's what us Gen Xers and the boomers do way too much of, sharing reels and stuff. And I got to tell you, I got a dear friend of mine who I know is listening right now. And I have a inappropriate sense of humor, as those of you who went to the Not Safe for Radio show know. And he was saying, oh, yeah, you can send me anything. Nothing offends me. I sent him one that I thought was funny. He's like, I can't believe you would send that to me. I was like, well, yeah, sorry. I guess our humor profiles are not exactly aligned. Then he's like, I'll pray for you. I was like, yeah, you can pray for me, but I'm laughing at that reel. All right. We'll be back with the WIC stuff. First, I got to tell you about Vision Computer. They would love to build a computer for you or upgrade your existing computer. If you call them at 404-COMPUTE or go to visioncomputers.com, they work with people in all 50 states. They're very, very proactive in helping you. In fact, they sat down with us when we built our computer with them, wanted to know what my son needed, what he wanted, how long he wanted to be able to use a computer. They built him one that'll last him, get him to college. And that he plays a lot of games on it. And they're great. Their tech support's incredible. They can do this for your business or you as a person. If you're in the gig economy, you need a reliable laptop, they can build you one, upgrade your existing one. And then they can be your managed IT services. $199 a year per computer. A little less if you mention my name, allegedly. You call them at 404-COMPUTE or go to visioncomputers.com and have them build the machine for you, but have them service your machines. They can remote in. You get a special phone number you get to call, and in 15 seconds or less, you get a live human being on the phone who answers your questions. They can remote into your computer if they need to. They can help you with email support, printer support, so much more. Call them at 404-COMPUTE, tell them Eric sent you, or go to visioncomputers.com, anyone in any business nationwide.